Hey everyone, welcome to the Build Your English podcast, where we talk about real life in real English and help you speak with confidence when it matters. I'm Clara, and today we're talking about a voice you didn't invite, you didn't hire, and yet somehow it has a badge and a clipboard in your brain. The inner critic.
I'm Nathan, and yes, this is the voice that doesn't just criticize. It audits. It's not like, interesting choice. It's like, let's review your performance today. And I brought a highlighter.
Exactly. And it shows up at the worst times. Like you'll do something completely normal, send a message, make a small mistake, say one slightly awkward sentence, and suddenly your brain opens an entire courtroom.
The inner critic loves theater.
It does. It's never just a quick note. It's a full production. Okay, let me paint you a scene. Yesterday, I was going to text someone a simple message. Simple, friendly, normal human communication. And my brain goes, "Are you sure? Because this could define you forever."
The stakes are always wildly inappropriate.
Wildly. I'm standing there with my phone like it's a bomb. And I type, "Hey, hope your week is going well." And the inner critic leans in like a lawyer and goes, "Hope? Hope. Interesting. So you're the kind of person who hopes now. Bold."
That is such a specific kind of sabotage when it attacks you for being polite.
Then I backspace. I rewrite. I stare. And the inner critic starts narrating. "Look at you. Overthinking. Again. This is why you're exhausting." And now the message isn't the problem. The problem is me as a concept.
That's the move. It escalates from a moment to an identity.
Exactly. It's not, "That message is awkward." It's, "You are awkward. You always have been, and everyone knows." And suddenly, I'm not texting. I'm defending my entire personality in front of an invisible jury.
And the jury is harsh because it's built out of every memory you've ever cringed at.
Yes, it's like my brain has a folder called Evidence, and it opens it at the speed of light.
It's impressive, honestly. If we could apply that level of organization to our taxes, we'd be unstoppable.
True. My brain can't remember where I put my keys, but it can remember the exact tone of my voice in 2016 when I said something weird.
Perfect recall. Selective cruelty.
And here's what's scary. The inner critic sounds convincing. It doesn't sound like a cartoon villain. It sounds like you. It uses your voice, your logic, your vocabulary. It feels authoritative.
Because it often borrows the language of help. It doesn't say, "I want to hurt you." It says, "I'm just being realistic."
I'm just trying to protect you.
Yes, I'm preventing you from embarrassment. Which sounds reasonable until you realize the protection is a prison.
That's exactly it. It's like it confuses safety with smallness. If you do nothing, you can't fail. If you don't try, you can't be rejected. If you don't speak, you can't be misunderstood.
The inner critic is obsessed with avoiding risk, which is why I don't think of it as a sophisticated villain. I think of it as a badly trained manager.
A manager. I love that metaphor because it's so accurate and so insulting at the same time.
It is. It's a manager who panics, micromanages, and sends you 11 messages at midnight about a typo.
And it thinks that makes it responsible.
Exactly. It has no emotional training, but it has opinions.
And it runs meetings it shouldn't be in.
It runs your internal meetings. It shows up uninvited, takes the microphone, and suddenly your mind is a conference room where no one is listening. Everyone is just reacting.
Oh my God, yes, that's the feeling. Like I'm not living, I'm in a meeting about living.
And the meeting is always urgent.
Always. There's no calm agenda. It's just, we need to discuss why you're like this.
Here's a question. When do you notice your inner critic the most? What triggers it?
Honestly, when something matters. When I care. When I'm about to do something that could be meaningful. send a message to someone I value, say yes to an opportunity, show up in a way that feels more visible. That's when it gets loud.
That's important because people often think the inner critic appears because they're weak or broken, but it often shows up because you're near something real.
Exactly. Like you're leaving autopilot. You're stepping out of safe routine, and your brain goes, oh no, not new territory.
New territory means uncertainty, and uncertainty is the inner critic's favorite enemy.
So it tries to eliminate uncertainty by controlling everything. Every word, every impression, every outcome.
Which is impossible.
Which is why you end up exhausted.
And if you fail to control it, because you will, the inner critic uses that as proof that it should be even louder next time.
That's the loop. See, you needed me.
Yes, it creates the problem and then sells itself as the solution.
That's kind of genius.
It's genius in the way a scam is genius.
Yes, it's an emotional scam.
Exactly. And the scam works because the voice sounds like it's telling the truth. But the truth and the inner critic are not the same thing.
That's such an important distinction. The inner critic is confident, not correct.
Perfect.
Okay, I want to give a second example because texting is one thing, but it's not just texting. It's everything. I was in a cafe last week and I went to order something. Normal moment. The barista asks a question. Something simple like, "Do you want milk with that?" And for a half second, I didn't hear properly. So I said, "Sorry?" And it was fine. Totally fine. And I walk away with my coffee, and my inner critic goes, "Let's replay that."
Let's replay that is a horror movie line.
It is. And my brain starts replaying it like it was a public speech. "You said sorry weird. You looked confused. They now think you're incompetent." And I'm like, this was a coffee transaction. I did not file a resume.
But your inner critic treats social life like a constant job interview.
Yes, that's exactly what it does. Every moment becomes evidence for or against your worth.
And that's why it's heavy. People think inner critics are just annoying, but they can become exhausting because they turn life into a courtroom.
And the thing is, the inner critic doesn't even need a real mistake. It can work with nothing. It can take a neutral moment and add fear to it.
Because it's not reacting to facts. It's reacting to vulnerability.
That's so true. It's like the inner critic is the part of you that cannot tolerate being seen as imperfect.
Or being seen at all.
That one is very real.
And here's where the conversation gets interesting. Because the goal isn't to eliminate the inner critic. People try that and they get frustrated. They're like, why do I still have this voice? But having the voice isn't the problem.
The problem is obeying it.
Exactly, the difference between listening and obeying.
That phrase alone is a relief.
It is, because it gives you agency without pretending you can switch your brain off. You might hear the voice, that's normal, but you don't have to treat it as the boss.
So basically, the inner critic can speak, but it doesn't get to run the meeting.
Perfect mini summary. And honestly, that's the core idea.
The microphone metaphor helps me so much. Because my inner critic loves the mic, it wants to narrate, it wants to commentate, it wants to be the loudest voice in the room.
And it often is.
Yes, and when it's loud, other voices get quieter. The calm voice, the curious voice, the compassionate voice, the voice that can handle complexity.
The adult voice.
Yes, the adult voice, the one that can say, "That was awkward," and "It's fine."
Or, you made a mistake and you're still worthy.
Exactly. But the adult voice is not dramatic, so it doesn't fight for attention. It just waits.
Which is why a useful practice isn't, how do I kill the critic? It's, how do I bring the adult voice back to the mic?
Okay, let's talk about that. How do you do it without turning it into a cheesy motivational speech?
I do something very simple. I change the relationship. I stop arguing with the critic like it's a judge, and I start treating it like a nervous employee. Not evil, not wise, nervous.
That's interesting. You're not respecting it, but you're not attacking it either.
Exactly. If you attack it, you create a war inside yourself. And war is exhausting. But if you acknowledge it without obeying it, you remove its power.
What does that sound like in your head?
It sounds like, I hear you. Not, you're right, just, I hear you. And then, thank you, but I'm not doing that.
Thank you, but I'm not doing that. That's such a clean boundary.
It is. It's mature. It's calm. It's not a debate because the inner critic loves debates. Debates mean attention.
True. If you debate it, you're basically handing it the microphone and saying, go ahead, perform.
Exactly. And the critic performs best when you're emotionally tired.
Of course it does. It's like it waits for you to be low energy, and then it starts a PowerPoint.
Yes. Slide 1. Everything you did wrong.
Slide 2. Why this reflects your character.
Slide 3. A prediction of your lonely future.
It escalates so quickly.
It does. And here's another important point. The inner critic often speaks in absolutes. Always, never, everyone, no one.
Yes. You always mess this up. They never take you seriously. It's so dramatic.
And reality is rarely that dramatic. Reality is nuanced. But nuance doesn't create urgency. And urgency is the critic's fuel.
That makes sense. It needs intensity to feel persuasive.
Exactly. Calm doesn't sell fear.
Okay, I want to admit something. Sometimes I almost enjoy the inner critic. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. Like, if I criticize myself first, I'm prepared. I'm protected.
That's very honest. And that's the protective illusion. People think self-criticism prevents disappointment, but it often just creates it early.
Pre-disappointment. Like, I'm trying to get ahead of pain.
Yes, and you might think, if I'm harsh with myself, I'll improve. But harshness rarely creates growth. It creates tension.
And tension creates avoidance.
Exactly. A badly trained manager doesn't motivate you. It makes you dread the work.
That's such a good metaphor. Because if you had a real manager who spoke to you the way your inner critic speaks to you, you would quit. Or you would slowly lose your mind.
Or both.
So the question becomes, how do we retrain the manager?
We start by noticing when it takes the mic. Because the takeover is often subtle. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. That was stupid. You're behind. You're not enough.
And you accept it like it's news.
Exactly. You accept it as information instead of recognizing it as a mood.
That's huge, because the inner critic isn't reporting facts, it's reporting anxiety.
Yes, it's translating anxiety into language.
So if someone is listening and thinking, okay, but what can I actually do in the moment? I want to offer something simple, not preachy.
Agreed. Let's keep it grounded.
Here's one thing I tried recently, and it sounds silly, but it worked. I imagined my inner critic as a person in the room, not as me, as someone separate. And I asked, would I take advice from this person?
That's powerful. Because the critic sounds authoritative. But when you externalize it, you can evaluate it.
Exactly. And my answer was usually, no. Like, if a real person spoke to me that way, I'd be like, who invited you?
Yes. Why are you here? And why are you so intense?
Right. And it helped me realize something. Just because a thought is loud doesn't mean it's wise.
That's a strong sentence.
It's also a relief.
It is, and it brings us to a useful phrase people can actually use. Not a mantra, just a practical line. That's a thought, not a command.
Ooh, that's good.
It's clean. It creates distance. That's a thought, not a command. Because the critic speaks like it's giving orders. But you don't have to follow orders from a nervous employee.
We are really committed to this manager metaphor.
Because it works.
It does. Okay, story time. I had a moment recently where my inner critic took the mic in a bigger way. I was supposed to share an idea in a group, nothing dramatic, but still a moment where you're visible. And I had a perfectly fine idea, simple, clear. And then, about 10 minutes before, The inner critic shows up like, we need to talk.
We need to talk is never good.
Never. And it starts, that idea is obvious. Everyone will think you're basic. Someone will ask a question and you won't know the answer. You're about to embarrass yourself. And suddenly my body is reacting like I'm in danger. My heart is faster. My hands are cold. All because of an idea.
That's such a good example of how the critic doesn't just affect thoughts. It affects the nervous system.
Yes. And here's the part that really annoyed me. I realized the critic wasn't trying to help me communicate better. It was trying to help me disappear.
Exactly. It's not aiming for excellence. It's aiming for invisibility.
Which is not my goal.
And that's the moment you take the mic back.
Right. So I tried something. I didn't argue with it. I didn't do positive affirmations. I just said, internally, I hear you. And then I said, but I'm going to speak anyway.
That's the adult voice.
It was. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't brave in a movie way. It was more like steady. Like, you can come with me, but you're not driving.
If I had to say it in one sentence, you don't need to silence the inner critic. You need to demote it.
Yes, demotion is the word.
Because it often holds a job title it never earned.
Like CEO of your self-worth.
Exactly. It acts like it's in charge of your identity, your future, your value. And it's not qualified.
It truly isn't.
And after you spoke, what happened?
The funny part is, nothing. The world didn't end. Nobody pointed at me like, ha, basic. People nodded. Someone asked a question, I answered what I could, and when I didn't know something, I said, I'm not sure, but I can check. Like a normal adult.
That's it. Most fear is a story. Reality is usually manageable.
Exactly. But the inner critic doesn't care about reality. It cares about hypothetical humiliation.
Because humiliation feels like death to the ego.
And yet, we survive it.
We do. And the more you survive small discomforts, the less authority the critic has.
That's such a good point. Confidence isn't never feeling fear. It's learning that fear is not the boss.
Exactly. And this isn't about becoming someone who never doubts. That's not human. It's about becoming someone who can doubt and still move.
There's also something strangely compassionate here. Sometimes the inner critic is an old pattern, a voice you learned, a way you survived.
Yes, for some people, that voice began as protection. Maybe you grew up around high expectations or criticism or instability. So you learned to criticize yourself first to stay ahead of danger.
And that makes it feel familiar.
Exactly, which is why shame doesn't help. If you shame yourself for having an inner critic, you just created a second inner critic.
The critic criticizing the critic.
Yes, a hostile workplace inside your head.
That's not the vibe we want.
Not at all. We want a competent meeting.
Okay, let's make this incredibly practical for a second, but still conversational. If the inner critic takes the mic, what are the signs? What should people look for?
I'd say urgency, absolutes, and punishment. Urgency. Fix this now. Absolutes. You always, you never. And punishment. You should feel bad until you improve.
Yes, the punishment thing is big. Like it believes suffering is productive.
Exactly. If you feel bad enough, you'll become better. But that's not how growth works. That's how fear works.
So the alternative is calm correction?
Calm clarity. Correction can be useful. Self-awareness is healthy. But it should feel like guidance, not an attack.
Like a good coach.
Yes, a coach doesn't scream, "You're terrible." A coach says, "Try this, adjust that, keep going."
I love that. Okay, I want to share one more small thing that helped me. When I hear the critic, I sometimes label it. I literally say, the audit voice,
That's great.
because it makes it less personal. It's not, me telling me the truth. It's the audit voice doing its thing again.
And labeling creates distance. Distance creates choice.
Exactly. And choice is everything. Because without choice, you're just reacting.
And reaction is where the critic thrives. It wants you reactive, not reflective.
Which is why even a tiny pause helps. Just a tiny pause before you accept what it says.
Yes, the pause is the microphone exchange.
I love that image. The pause is you reaching for the mic.
And you don't need to make a speech. You just need to say, noted.
Noted, but not obeyed.
Exactly.
Okay, one last question and then we'll wrap. If someone feels like their inner critic is loud every day, what's the first mindset shift that actually helps?
Stop asking, how do I get rid of this voice? And start asking, what does this voice think it's protecting me from? Because behind the critic is usually fear. Fear of rejection, failure, being judged, being seen. If you meet the fear with curiosity instead of war, the critic calms down over time.
That's such a good point. Curiosity changes the tone.
Curiosity is disarming. The critic expects a fight. It doesn't know what to do with calm questions.
It's like when a dramatic person tries to start an argument, and you just don't. And they're like, wait, where's the chaos?
Exactly. You're starving it of drama.
Okay, let's land this. The inner critic might show up. It might take the mic, but you can take it back, gently, consistently, without turning your life into a battlefield.
And you don't have to become someone new. You just have to stop letting the loudest voice run the meeting.
Before we go, here's one question to leave you with. The next time that voice shows up, ask yourself, am I listening or am I obeying?
And if you can, try this simple line. That's a thought, not a command.
Thanks for spending this time with us.
We'll see you next time.
And until then, if your inner critic grabs the mic, remember, you can let it speak without letting it lead.
Less noise, more clarity.